Hello and welcome to Overtime Hockey Talk. My name is Mark Paul. My co-host Justin Baker joining me as the playoffs are very much underway. We are at either Game 4 or Game 5 for... Actually, sorry, we're at Game 5 for every series, right? Game 4 has been played in every series up to this point. Some have even had Game 5s played. So we are going to give you our biggest surprises of each series so far, give you our thoughts on the series up to this point. We know hold on. Justin, hi. I feel like, you know what, I listened to our last show and I was like, oh dang, took so long before I not let you talk before I was like, shut the fuck up and actually allowed you to get a word in edgewise. So I want to let you talk before I ramble. So, hi.
Well, I appreciate that. It's nice to be noticed and remembered. So thank you. It's been great.
Yeah, if I can't remember the one person who does this with me, then I'm in big trouble.
Well, you'll be doing it solo from here on out is what'll happen.
Gosh.
You can call up Luke Paul and see what he's doing.
Oh, no, that won't happen. No. I've tried to get him to do something, like, hey, let's do a Leafs thing. And no, he's like, oh, I'm too busy. And I'm like, well, you're not like, you have the time, you just have filled it with other things. Anyways.
I remember the one time he did come on the show, though, to talk Leafs.
Yeah.
It was maybe like 3 or 4 years ago for the playoffs. He was in town visiting.
That's right.
But now that butthead is living here.
Now he lives here.
He doesn't have an excuse.
Lives in Ann Arbor for sure. Well, okay. So, anyways, we'll just let that die. And if Luke's listening to the show, then you've been called out. It's time to get your act together. Let's talk these first two series tonight. So we're recording this on Thursday at about 5 p.m. So we know tonight is a huge Game 5 for both the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Toronto Maple Leafs, as well the Winnipeg Jets and the Vegas Golden Knights, because the Golden Knights and the Leafs could close their series out tonight. And obviously we don't know the outcome of that. Chances are you're listening to this, who won Game 5 between those two teams, as well as the Rangers and the Devils. But that series will live on regardless of the outcome. So we wanted to talk those first two series first, just in case you're listening to this and you're like, well, I already know that series is over. Well, we still want to give you our thoughts on the series up to this point. Things can obviously change, but at this point, I think our biggest surprises probably wouldn't change. So, Justin, what's your biggest surprise? Let's start with the Leafs and the Lightning. Biggest surprise so far in the Leafs and Lightning series?
Honestly, it's the poor goaltending. I know we looked at the numbers. I think it was the last game. It was Game 4 when they were showing up on the screen basically the combined, save percentage from this year and last year for Vasilevsky has been terrible. It's like an 860 something, I believe. Yeah. And feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but basically against every other team, it's been like a 920. He's been playing phenomenal hockey, but when it comes to the Leafs, he's just not doing well. And so you wonder, like, okay, well, what happened last year, right? The Leafs just couldn't close it out. I think this year, obviously, things are a little bit different. I think they're getting such balanced scoring up and down the lineup, and it's nice to see. Obviously, my prediction is coming true right now. Leafs in 5. I'm hoping by the time
I'm really hoping you're right.
But again, it just goes back to how terrible the goaltending has been. You look at Tampa Bay put up 7 in the first game, Toronto 7 in the second, 4 and 5 in games 3 and 4. So there's a lot. It's just high scoring, and yes, that's where the NHL has been trending. But you figured with Toronto, who's been playing so good defensively throughout most of the year, especially the last half of the year, and then of course Tampa with we know how good Vasi is in the playoffs, traditionally speaking. It's just surprising to me that it's been a high scoring affair like this.
Yeah, it's to me it's not surprising that it's a high scoring affair, but just how the Leafs have been able to expose Vasilevsky from these shots from the point. They've really bit them. You've got Derek Lalonde on the intermission talking about how basically they had to game plan or their defense around this. And of course, John Cooper was like, no, that's not true at all. And you're like, why in the world would he lie? What reason does he have to lie? obviously he won 2 Stanley Cups and was there for a finals run. He was obviously there. Like, he has no reason to lie about that. But anyways, that was just a weird, like, why you play that off and why you don't just go, yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty lame that he would kind of share that. Like, you could say that if you're annoyed, like, man, hey, this guy is with us for so many years, and now he gets his chance to talk, and he's going to kind of throw us under the bus. Really appreciate that after helping your career. That's where I would have gone, which would have been pretty.
What I would have done is I would have stuck. Gosh, why am I blanking on the name for the old Wings coach? Oh my gosh, it's going to drive me nuts. That's an assistant now in Tampa. Why the frick can't I think of his name?
Oh, you're talking about
oh my god.
Oh, who is oh my gosh, who's the assistant coach in Tampa Bay? Well, we don't know.
Jeff Blashill.
Blashill. Oh, okay. Honestly, I was like, well, it's not Blashill. I didn't. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, so Blashill was a coach. I mean, he was a head coach for the Wings. So what I would have done if I was John Cooper, I would have thrown Blashill out there and be like, why don't you just go say something about how terrible, this person is on the Wings or something, maybe badmouth the Wings just a little bit, right? And just create a little bad blood, because same division, that would have been great for rivalries.
Remember back when the Lightning was owned by the same person that owned the Pistons?
Yes.
And there was like bad blood between the Red Wings and the Lightning because of it or something. Do you remember? Yeah, it's weird.
Well, back then the Lightning were, they were decent, but they weren't a perennial contender, right? I mean,
well, they won the Stanley Cup when the Red Wings were really good, but they didn't play the Wings in the final. So that was the year that they went to the final. Was who did they play?
Calgary.
Oh, Calgary, that's right. And Calgary beat Detroit, right? Calgary beat Detroit in round 2 that year.
Kippersoft beat everybody is what happened.
Yes. So I'll say my biggest surprise of this series has really, like, it's not a surprise that Mitch Marner's played really well. But to me, based on previous playoffs, he's punching above his weight where he's been in the past at about like just under a point per game in the playoffs. And right now he's at what? 2.5 points per game. Just fantastic. And crazy enough, I still think, even though he is the driver, Austin Matthews in Game 4 is the reason that the Leafs were able to take that game over. But Austin Matthews doesn't get that opportunity without Mitch Marner. So it's like Mitch Marner is he's not necessarily the engine. I think that Austin Matthews is the engine, but without that starter in Mitch Marner, you don't get the engine going at all. And that's exactly what Marner does. He's like the absolute perfect complement for Matthews, and Marner's just been phenomenal. 10 points. If he keeps doing that, he'll probably, he ends up with 12 points. Even if the Leafs win that series in 5, he's just looking so good. Odds on early favorite for the Conn Smythe if the Leafs were to win the cup, which I know is a long way off, but he has just been surprisingly productive for the playoffs, which I'm happy for him, because it's kind of about time that he's getting his due here.
Kind of about time. I love it.
Kind of about time. You mentioned the goaltending for this series, and I actually don't think that Samsonov has played poorly outside of that first game. That first game was bad. But inside that first game, I think that you look at him and you go, I mean, he's played as good as you can ask. And honestly, I mean, Tampa Bay could just as easily be up 3-1 in this series. That's just how tight it's been. The Leafs have come back in 2 games in a row in Tampa, like almost unfathomable to be able to do that. But here we are, and Tampa Bay's on the brink. Surprisingly enough, they are on the brink of losing their second straight series for the first time in a very long time. To lose 2 series in a row, it just is. It's hard to bet against Tampa still. For this going into this Game 5, you wonder if Tampa's able to get through this Game 5. What does it look like going beyond that? And that's got to be the scary thing for the Leafs. And I would expect that they will come out and do their damnedest to try and win this game and call it good, because you don't want to give Tampa Bay an inch.
Well, so here's the question, right? If you're Toronto, is your game plan to go and attack Tampa, right? Just go at them like you have been all series? Or do you hang back and just kind of wait for Tampa to make mistakes and try to capitalize?
And, well, here, I don't think that they can. They're not going to get another comeback victory. Like, in 3 games in a row, you're not coming back down 2 goals or more. I mean, I suppose it's possible, but it's just not the position you want to put yourself in. So I think getting the first goal is crucial. And then the second goal, and just kind of putting them away early. I think that with the home crowd, you're going to just be looking to win that first period. And if you can win the first period, you might start creeping into these guys' heads a little bit. And ultimately, is this just not a result of maybe Tampa playing so many games? On top of that, losing Chernak, Hedman missed a game, all these little injuries that maybe they've stacked themselves up over the years are just starting to show. Like, hey, this is why it's so hard to win multiple years in a row, let alone make it to the finals, 4 years in a row, or even have 4 incredibly successful runs in a row. It's hard to do.
Yeah. It's, I mean, like
you don't
said,
see it.
Yeah, it's. I think time's just catching up on them, and you got to think it's just starting to wear down now. And so,
And my God, could time not be like the opposite way? Like, is time not catching up with the Leafs? Like, eventually, this team is a damn good team. Right?
Yeah, you can't lose in the first round this many years in a row.
Every single time. Like, eventually, they truly have been one of the most unlucky teams in sports.
Well, I look at this series almost like Pittsburgh and Washington, right? I mean, for so long, Washington couldn't beat Pittsburgh, and eventually they were just going to break through. And this is Toronto's breakthrough in the first round kind of situation.
You've literally been for the last 3 years trying to figure out how you can beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. And it's finally worked. Maybe, I mean, it worked at least 3 times so far. Now you got to get the 4th. And I do like Austin Matthews coming out and like, hey, the 4th one's the hardest one to get, and that's the one we haven't gotten yet. So we got to be on top of this. But so many things we could talk about in that series too, and I'm sure we will once a little bit more is clear in that series, like Ryan O'Reilly and all the additions. I mean, there's so many players that have been integral to the Leafs gaining that. Winning the 3 games anyway. So, but when that series closes out, I'm sure we'll break that down a little bit more. Let's move over to that. Do you want to give your prediction?
Oh, my prediction. Well, I have to stick with my.
You're going with 5. Yeah, you're going with your game 5. Yeah, I did pick them in 6 games, but man, I said this in the beginning of the series. I just want them to win and not have to sweat because they're playing so many games. Like, just win it in 5. Like, I know every series has gone to freaking 7 games. The max amount of games. Like, can we let's just close this out, call it good. They could use the rest. It would be fantastic, especially as Florida continues to beat up on Boston. Even that extra game, maybe an extra 2 games if the Florida Panthers can push this one to 7. And, that could be a big advantage, having your guys rested, especially, some of their more veteran guys. So let's go to Winnipeg and Vegas. This one, Vegas is up 3-1. Maybe over, maybe Winnipeg tied it up. But what is your biggest surprise of the series in the first 4 games? Yeah,
I essentially had 2. I really had a hard time choosing, so I'm just going to give you both anyways. But, I mean, my first one, one for each team. I've got Mark Stone just playing so well coming back from injury, essentially not having played since January 12th. He steps in and looks like he's been playing all season long, right? He hasn't missed a beat. Comes in, I mean, he's averaging 20 minutes a night right now. So no doubt he is, just on the throttle. And you can tell this team plays differently when they have a guy like him in the lineup. The leadership he brings, that 2-way game he brings, and not to mention, I mean, he's put up 5 points in 4 games, which is just great. I mean, this team is getting balanced scoring from everybody right now. And then on the flip side for Winnipeg, my surprise that, I couldn't decide between was just that Hellebuyck has just not necessarily been, he hasn't been bad. He's done, he's played fine, but I expected him, in order to give Winnipeg a chance, to play like a 930, 925 save percentage type of game, and he just hasn't been putting up those numbers for me.
Right. That's my biggest surprise of this series, is just that Hellebuyck has not played the way that he did in the regular season. That can be a result of having to play so much in the regular season. It's catching up to them, and this has happened before as well. The Vegas Golden Knights, they're very familiar with Hellebuyck, all sorts of things. I think ultimately this is just a result of Vegas is the far superior team. Winnipeg, they had a nice little run. A new coach is in place. They get a new fire lit under their butt. They've got some talented players, but Josh Morrissey out, Hellebuyck not playing. Hellebuyck he's still playing. He's still above average, but he needs to be far above that in order for them to win. And Vegas just has tremendous depth, and we haven't really felt that depth throughout the season because of the injuries that they've had. But yeah, now that Stone's back, Eichel's going. He's got 3 goals. Carlson's got 3 goals here in the first 4 games. They are buzzing, and their depth at the center position, at the forward position, is really showing here. And Vegas is just the better team. Winnipeg can win game 5 and push this one back to Winnipeg, but I still think at the end of the day, the Golden Knights are the better team, even though I think I had the Jets in 7.
You did, yeah, and you picked them because the reason I would have picked them would be because of Connor Hellebuyck, right?
Yeah. Which, hey, he hasn't stolen a game yet. Here we are in game 5. We'll see how he plays, but ultimately, I just think Vegas has the depth and Winnipeg doesn't. They're giving it a hell of a push, though. They're definitely not giving up. They're pushing the Golden Knights. I think that they just don't have the same team depth that the Golden Knights have. So, or the same hot, like, top end talent. As good as someone like Scheifele is, I'm going to take Eichel over Scheifele from a talent standpoint. There's the way that they match up with so many players. And then you throw in that wild card of Chandler Stevenson, who can just shimmy up anywhere in that lineup. Winnipeg doesn't have anybody like that. So yeah. I think that's just what's happening, and Vegas is likely going to move on because of that, regardless of what happens in Game 5.
Well, so Vegas is essentially playing with their third string, maybe even you might call him a 4th-string goaltender in Brossoit. They're not playing Jonathan Quick, obviously, and obviously they're not playing Aiden Hill. We know what with Robin Lehner and Logan Thompson being out right now. So essentially they're down to their 3rd or 4th goaltender in the lineup, and he's been playing at a 902 save percentage right now, which again isn't world beating. It isn't going to be
better than Vasilevsky.
Well, yeah, I'll give you that. But it's not any better than Hellebuyck's been playing. So the difference is, like you mentioned, just that depth at the forward group that this Vegas team has. You look at Mark Scheifele right now, 1 goal, and essentially it was a power play goal. So 5-on-5, 0 points right now for him. And then again, you look at some of these other forward groups. They Mason Appleton, nothing right now. Logan Stanley, on defense, nothing. But there's a lot of guys with big fat zeros. Morgan Barron, granted, I'll give a tip of the cap to you for taking 75 stitches, but you're -6 with 0 points right now. That's pretty bad in my opinion. You're getting peeled apart right now, and Niederreiter -5. So it's just again, it's that depth at the forward group that is not coming through for this Winnipeg team, and that's the reason why they're playing behind in the series.
Well, and it's also showing, hey, Winnipeg was a decent regular season team. They played well against bad teams, and now they're playing a good team. They just can't hang, and that's becoming evident. And honestly, Josh Morrissey being out, that's a dagger to the heart. He was your best player all year, other than Hellebuyck, your best skater, and with him out, you really don't stand any chance. So Winnipeg just unfortunately they hit a wall. They hit a wall, and that wall is the Golden Knights. All right, let's go to the Rangers and the Devils. They're playing game 5 tonight.
Hold on. We got to throw in our predictions here really quick.
Okay.
We missed that. Yeah, I want to go.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm still going Vegas in 6. I think you might be onto something with Hellebuck stealing a game. So,
well,
I think they'll get one.
I mean, I said Jets in 7. I really don't see that happening now. Obviously that was a prediction with everybody healthy and a Hellebuck playing well. I think that Vegas closes it out tonight in Vegas. This one's over.
Okay.
Okay, to the Rangers and the Devils. They're playing game 5 in New Jersey. The away team has won every single game in this series, and after 2 5-1 victories in game 1 and 2 for the Rangers, the Devils flipped a script and they storm back, tie the series at 2, and we've got a best out of 3. Man, this series has just been a almost 2 different series from the first 2 games to the next 2.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, and that's probably my biggest surprise, right? Just the difference that again, being in New York versus being in New Jersey have been. When they played both these games in New York, they've been low scoring affairs. Clearly Shesterkin has been keeping the Rangers in it, but when you look at the production from this Rangers forward group, right? Zibanejad only 2 points, Tarasenko 2 points, Panarin only 2 points, and even more so. It's just, game 4, they were mixing and matching these lineups, these lines all night long for the Rangers. And I remember watching it at a couple points. I even think I texted you about this, Shesterkin, I just watched him. He's passing the puck up the ice, way past the second blue line because he's trying to push that offense. And they just look stagnant. The Rangers did that, that last game there in Madison Square Garden, no less. And so, I wonder if, maybe this is on, Schmid. Maybe, he came in net for New Jersey and has kind of flipped the script a little bit and, has their number. I don't know.
Yeah, he's stopped 57 of 59 shots. So a 966 save percentage, that's good. That's very good.
That's good.
Also, I mean, think of the game 1 and 2, the Rangers went 4 for 10 on the power play. And in game 3 and 4, they went 0 for 8. And they only had 10 shots on the power play in those 8 attempts. That's just not enough offensive opportunity to really make a difference on the power play. And that's the difference right there. 4 goals, I mean, that's a sweep. If the Rangers are able to go into to at home score on the power play several times, that's a completely different series. And that's really been what it is. And that's Chris Kreider, right? Like, that's kind of what everybody's been saying all year is that, hey, Chris Kreider, yeah, he can score goals, but they're mostly on the power play. And if he's not going to get if the other team is able to shut down that power play, he's not nearly as effective 5-on-5. And that has proven to be true. I mean, the Rangers just can't score. Only 2 goals in those 2 games and 10 the previous 2. So it's been close, right? Like, it's been a 3-1, 2-1 games. They've all been winnable for the Rangers, but and really they've both been 1-goal games because there was an empty net goal that Palat had in game 4. So, I mean, they were tight games. I think it's just a matter of, like, can the Rangers go back to what was allowing them to win, and that was stopping New Jersey from being able to control that speed game and really using their bodies. Like, I think that Jacob Trouba is going to be so important here in game 5. He is the engine. He's the guy that, like, gets everything going for this Rangers team. I expect that he comes out and uses his body, uses his physicality to get something going here in game 5 because the Rangers need a shot in the arm.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100%, right? I mean, they look lackluster. They look kind of lackadaisical, whatever you want to call it. And so for me, yeah, you're right. They need energy, right? And they need guys like Barclay Goodrow to step up, Jacob Trouba. They need guys, because let's face it, they don't have the fastest skating team. And we knew that coming in, right? That it was going to be basically the Rangers' IQ and their, I don't know what kind of game you want to call it, but their neutral zone shutdown game, taking, turnovers and capitalizing on them versus New Jersey's speed, right? That's what New Jersey does so well. And so I think if, Rangers can use the body a little bit, slow them down, chip in pucks and go in and dig them out. Chris Kreider, man, he's a big fella. There should be no reason why he can't win a lot of these 50-50 battles. But, again, they need energy from guys like that to chip in and make the difference, right?
Yep.
Turn the series around.
Game 3 and 4, Schmid is the man. And I think it's easy to forget that in Game 2, the Devils were up 1-0 at the end of the first period. And it was really Shesterkin who held the Rangers in. And, then Tarasenko and Kreider scored a couple power play goals there in the second period, and away we went. But that game, Shesterkin was far more important than what you think. You see 5-1 and you go, okay, well, whatever. But Shesterkin was crucial to that win. That game could have gotten away from them before they were given those opportunities. And I think he has to be the best goalie in this series to win. Like, Schmid cannot outplay Shesterkin. And so far in games 3 and 4, he did. So I think that all this, like we said, the very beginning of our preview of this series, the Rangers' fortunes lie in Igor Shesterkin. Now, they do have a good offense, right? Like, they have good offensive players, but without Shesterkin allowing them to push the puck up ice because they don't have the speed coming back, he's got to be great. Yeah,
I agree with you 100%.
Especially against the Devils.
Right,
because of the Devils' speed. Like, if they were playing somebody else who, if they were playing the Lightning here in the first round, I don't think that it would be the same type of matchup because the Lightning aren't as fast as the Devils. But because of the Devils' speed, because of that uniqueness, he just has to be great.
Yeah, and I want to see Alex Lafreniere break out. I want to see Vincent Trocheck break out a little bit because these are guys that only 1 point combined between the two of them right now. They need to be better. This Rangers team just needs to be better if they're going to win this series. And right now, the Devils are doing everything they need to do to take this series if they continue down this path.
Okay, prediction for the series.
Yeah, I'm going to still go Rangers, my original prediction, and in 7, because I think ultimately it's going to be a battle between these two teams. I think, the Rangers are leading the NHL in goals against because of how well Shesterkin's played. And I think regardless where they're at, home or away, it doesn't matter. I think they're going to get great goaltending from Igor, and they just got to find a way to score.
Okay, I'm sticking with the Devils. I picked them in 7. Here we are, best 2 out of 3. I think that Jack Hughes is going to be better. You can tell that they're still finding their hey, we're in the playoffs. This is different. Hughes still 3 points in 4 games. It's not shabby. He's got 3 goals in the 4 games. But I still think their offense is figuring it out a little bit. So I'm still going Devils. I think they're getting better every game. And that's an important thing to remember. And Schmid, baby, I'm riding the Schmid all the way. All right. Let's go to the Hurricanes and the Islanders. The Islanders staved off elimination by taking that game 4. So here we are, taking game 5. And here we are going back to New York, a 3-2 series for Carolina. And there are rumors that Frederik Andersen will be starting game 6.
I did hear that.
So a little bit of a goalie controversy in Carolina with them leading the series. And what's your biggest surprise so far at the series, though?
Yeah, my biggest surprise is honestly looking at the scoreboard. Really that Carolina has put up 4 goals, twice in the series with a 5-2 in game 4 and a 4-3 in game 2, right? So they've been able to score enough goals to win 3 of these games here. For me, no Svechnikov, no Pacioretty, just that lack of offensive depth that I thought they were going to have issues with has not been a hindrance for them at all, in my opinion. They played their game, and it's played. They played the way they want to, and it doesn't seem to matter. Who is in and out of the lineup right now. They're finding ways to win and finding ways to chip in. And so for me, that's the biggest surprise, that they're able to put up a 5-4 spot on a couple separate occasions. Now, oddly enough, the goals against and goals for both these teams are exactly the same, 2.8. So no one has the edge as far as that's concerned. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out as far as the remainder of the series is concerned.
Yes, I agree that Carolina, they just play this system like they're just a machine. All right, yes, Aho he's been fantastic. He scored some big goals for Carolina. But when you look at this, you look at the Hurricanes, you look at the Islanders, they both play very similar. They play a good system game, a good team game. But I think the thing that's surprising to me the most is Kyle Palmieri. Where did he come from? 5 points in 5 games. He's got 2 goals and 3 assists. He's been very good for the Islanders. Even defensively, he had an important clear out towards the end of that game 5. He's being relied upon and being put out in stressful situations up by a goal. And I'll say this. This is what I think just encapsulates the Islanders is that they're up. They had a shot to probably score in an empty net, but it was from their own blue line. I don't remember who it was, and they just lightly shot it, down to like the circle, rather than taking a shot at the net and taking a shot at that goal. Like it was ingrained in the mind. Like, we don't need to score. We're just putting it down here. And that ultimately closed out the game. And, if sometimes those shots, you miss the shot, it goes back for icing, the team gets another opportunity rather than just playing the chess game where it's, let's just put it down into a spot where they now have to skate it back up the ice and times run out. So I like the way that both teams are playing. This is like a true, here's how to play hockey within a system, and both teams are doing it. It looks like the Hurricanes still have, I think, the better depth than the Islanders from top to bottom. They're a little faster, and Aho has been just better than Horvat, and I think that's a big key as to why the Hurricanes have that 3-2 lead.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think oh man, I didn't think this series would be this close. In my opinion, I thought the Islanders were going to kind of run away with it a little bit, as well as they were playing at the end of the year. But man, like you said, that system, man, it's hard to beat. And on the flip side, Barzal, Bo Horvat, they have not looked that great. They haven't produced. And I wonder, if the Islanders do bow out at in the first round here, I wonder if they, look back and like, man, why the frick did we sign Bo Horvat to that 8-year deal before seeing what he could do in the playoffs? Because, man, it just hasn't looked good for me.
Yeah, I'm also willing to go, well, I mean, he comes over from a very loose team.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely, yeah.
He'll be given every chance.
It takes a year to get used to systems in some cases, but still.
Well, I have the Hurricanes in 7, so I'm going to stick with my Hurricanes pick. I think they could close this one out in New York, but it's going to be close. All these games have been pretty close, and it just looks like the Hurricanes maybe beyond this series. You're looking at that other series, the Devils and the Rangers. Is there any chance that either of these teams could beat either of those teams? And I don't know that the answer is yes, but
yeah,
that will be for another show.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I had the Islanders in 6, and I am going to have to. Wrong. Yeah, I'm going to have to say no, because that's clearly not going to happen. I am going to go Carolina, though. I do think it is going to take 7 games. That system has just been too good against this Islander team. I think they'll squeak something out at home for Game 6. I think maybe Sorokin steals it. But ultimately, I think Carolina's system is just too much for the Islanders to handle. Yeah,
I will say this, that even if the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Winnipeg Jets lose in Game 5, so those series close themselves out, that's still 6 of 8 series going to a minimum of 6 games. And that's it definitely shows the parity, but that just shows how, these playoffs have been very exciting so far. Lots of different types of series. Like, you've got this one that's not robotic, but it's definitely like, all right, let's just watch a bunch of guys who know how to play hockey. And then you've got the next series of the Bruins and Panthers that's like, all right, we all want to kill each other, but also we have incredible talent on both teams. And hey, by the way, Boston, let's just do it without Bergeron for a little while too. But then Boston's like, oh wait, on our third line we have Taylor Hall, who's going to go ahead and be like one of the top point producers in the playoffs so far. 5 goals, 8 points in 5 games. 5 goals in 5 games, unbelievable. If it weren't for Leon Draisaitl, everyone would be talking about Taylor Hall.
Right.
Sorry, I guess I'm jumping over to that series.
Yeah, I was going to say, is this the perfect transition right now? Let's talk Boston.
It would have been the perfect transition had you not pointed it out. No?
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, let's talk Bruins Panthers. I think we know where we're both sticking with our picks on the Hurricanes Islanders. So we'll roll over the Bruins. I believe we both. No, you had the Panthers.
I had the Panthers in 7. It's still alive. Still alive.
Oh my! I mean, yeah.
If Hallmark turns the puck over like that again, I might be okay. But.
What's your biggest surprise?
Oh, my biggest surprise has been how well Boston has played without Bergeron and Krejci at different points throughout the series, right? So you figured if you had told me like, hey, you know what? At some point you're going to be without your number 1 center for a few games, and then you're going to lose your number 2 center and get a not 100% number 1 center back, and you're still going to be up 3 games to 2 in this series. I would have said, yeah, you're full of shit for any team, right? But Boston, no, fuck that. No, we've got Taylor Hall on the third line. We've got the Hart Trophy winner. He's just going to go out and dominate. Not to mention we've got, Tyler Bertuzzi, who looks like a machine, just playing so freaking good. With some of these guys, and we'll throw this winger Pavel Zacha, we'll put him back at his natural position at center, and Charlie Coyle's going to look freaking good too, like he's worth more money than what we're paying him for. When earlier this year we were ready to jettison him for cap savings. So
right, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, he has been very good. But the Bruins, I think the Bruins have done what was expected of them, right? Like the Bruins are up 3-2 in the series. Big whoop. Like they're up in the series. That's what they're supposed to do. They literally won 65 out of 82 games. That's dumb. Like no team has ever gotten even close to that because they beat the record by 3 whole games, which is not insignificant. And here are the Panthers competing with I know that Lyon was in and Bobrovsky's played. Like, what are your thoughts on the Panthers and how they've been able to just, no pun intended, claw their way back into this series?
Yeah, I think we saw it last night with Tkachuk's goal, right? The Panthers don't squander their opportunities because they haven't had a ton of them, right? They're creating chances, but they're not getting a ton of quality chances, let's just say, right? I think, especially watching last night's game, Boston controlled play for a majority of that game. I don't think there's any question about that. And I fully expected Boston when they were, driving back and tied things up after, the Panthers had, I can't remember who was in the box. And then 5 seconds later, Panthers go on the power play right after Boston scores on the power play, and then they get the lead back, right? So it's those things where Florida is capitalizing on every opportunity they get, and they're not squandering anything because really against a team so good as Boston, even with, Krejci out or Bergeron out at points, they're just still a freaking machine like Carolina where they can come in and roll over you no matter who's in and out of the lineup.
Yeah, Matthew Tkachuk has just been, he's just a different, there's no one like him in the league.
No.
Other than maybe Brady Tkachuk.
I don't even think Brady's close to his level.
No, not the level that he's at now.
No.
But he is older, right? So,
right, sure.
Yeah. The goalie controversy is interesting to me. Alex Lyon's the guy who got them there. He plays game 1. He plays okay. Plays game 2 and wins it, and then plays game 3 and loses it. So they turn it over to Bobrovsky. And I thought that after Bobrovsky gave up a 5 or 6 spot in game 4, I thought, oh man, maybe they'll go back to Alex Lyon, and then they didn't. And of course, Bobrovsky wins game 5 for the Panthers, and he looks decent doing it. And
he looked great.
Now I wonder, they've got to go keep riding to Bobrovsky now. I think they've officially gone, hey Alex, thanks for the regular season run. We're gonna go to our $10 million man now. I think the Alex Lyon run is over unless Bobrovsky gets hurt.
No, I agree with you. It is over with. And I think if Bobrovsky gets hurt, I still think they'll call up Spencer Knight, I think, and bring him up.
Oh, you don't think they'll go with Alex Lyon?
I don't think they would. No, not at all.
I don't know about that.
Listen, I think, again, Bobrovsky is the big name goaltender. He's been in those big situations, those elimination games. He knows what it takes. He had that incredible run against Tampa Bay all those years ago in that sweep. So he knows how to get over, those big time offenses. And, whether or not I think he's still capable of being a $10 million goaltender is a whole other question.
Well,
but I think
I don't think anybody thinks that he's a $10 million goaltender, but that just happens to be what he's making.
Right. Yeah. I mean, for right now, he has to be your guy. You have to ride or die with this guy at this point. And because, don't get me wrong, Alex Lyon was fine. He got you there, like you mentioned, but he hasn't been good enough. He hasn't stolen any games yet. And for, especially game 2, that win they had 6-3, right? He didn't look particularly dominating. And had he been dominating, I think, or even looked like he was playing at, a really, really good level of, goaltending, I would have said, okay, cool, keep riding him.
Yeah.
But it just hasn't been there.
Yep. And at that point, there was no reason not to go to Bobrovsky, and he looks good when they do decide to go to him. Your prediction for the rest of the way, you still got Panthers in 7?
I got to keep it, right? I think, again, luckily having to go home for game 6, even though I guess maybe in the playoffs, for the whole NHL, it hasn't really meant much to be home ice. But I think Florida finds a way, and ultimately it would be fun for me to watch Boston lose in 7.
Okay, I had Boston in 6, so I will stick with that. Okay, the Stars and the Wild, holy jumping! Rupe Hintz is the he is the star of the show right now. 11 points in 5 games. He has been phenomenal. Leads the playoffs in points right now. 4 goals, 7 assists, and he may. He's not even Dallas's best player in this series. That's what at 11 points. Jake Ottinger has just, I think, officially become the man. Like, he's now officially maybe the best goalie in the NHL.
I don't know if I'd go that far, best goalie in the NHL, but I'm still leaning with Shesterkin on that one. But I will say, we knew Jake Ottinger was a player. We knew he was going to be good in the playoffs, right? And so that first game, he looked good. Not great, but looked good. Game 2, again, looked good, not great. But game 5 just, obviously gives up a few too many. But, man, these last games 4 and 5, he's shown why he's the guy, right? Why he's the playoff guy for this team. And, game 5 just was phenomenal. So, yeah, there's no doubt in my mind there's why. There's a reason why he's the goaltender of the future for that team, and we've known for the last few years how good he can be in the playoffs. So,
he's just the goaltender for the team, because
just the goaltender.
Yeah, not the future anymore. The future is now for the Dallas Stars. This is, this series has been, Pavelski takes that hit. He's out for the entire series. And you think that's going to be kind of like, ooh, how are they going to do this without Pavelski? And the Wild have had their moments. You look at like Kaprizov has just been completely blanketed. That guy is skating around and does not have any space to do anything. And I think that's what you have to do to beat Minnesota. If you can shut down Kaprizov, you're probably going to beat them in a 7-game series.
Right. So here's the thing, too, right? So they know, obviously, he's the big-name weapon. The rumor has it that Zuccarello and Hartman didn't skate this morning. So who knows what there'll be game-time decisions for this next game here, Game 6. So we don't even know if, Minnesota's 2 top scorers are going to be in there. And rumor has it Joe Pavelski is traveling with the team, so he might get in for Game 6, too. I'm not really sure. We'll see what has to go with that. But for me, the biggest surprise, right, it hasn't necessarily been Kaprizov not scoring. It's been Tyler Seguin scoring, how well he stepped in, and he's looked like he fits in very, very nicely with that top line, filling in for Joe Pavelski. And hopefully, if Dallas wants to continue this run, when Joe Pa does come back, he can continue that success when he is pushed down the lineup. It's
almost like Rupe Hintz and Jason Robertson are really good. That's what I've taken. That's what I'm surprised about. This series has been fun. It's been very physical, like lots of hate between these two teams. You got to love that. And I just think Dallas clearly has that depth advantage over Minnesota. Gustav Nyquist has been a nice addition. Four helpers here in these 5 games. He's been really good for Minnesota. I actually think that there's a chance that Nyquist maybe ends up signing with Minnesota because it seems like he's a pretty good fit. So, you find the small wins maybe within a potential loss of the series. I don't personally see Minnesota winning another game. I think that this one's over. I called Dallas in 6 in our predictions, and I'm sticking with Dallas in 6.
Yeah, I called Dallas in 7, and I think I'm probably with you. I think they're going to do it in 6. My biggest concern, and looking at it in the face-off dot right, I said this going into this series, and I really said it going into this year. What Minnesota needed was a big-name centerman. Now it's rearing its head even more with, potentially Ryan Hartman being out. But now they just, Minnesota's the worst team in the NHL in these playoffs when it comes to the faceoff circle. And if you're not controlling the puck off the faceoff, right, especially in the defensive zone, you're giving Dallas, who's the best in the league at the faceoff, an opportunity to put one home. And that's the last thing you want to do.
Yep, 100%. And, it doesn't help that their goaltender has just been wildly better overall than Minnesota's both of Minnesota's goaltenders.
Yeah, don't even throw Flower back in there.
No, he's done. Not necessarily like, hey, you should retire, but he just didn't look good in game 2. So I don't see how you go back to him. But what's his contract with the Minnesota Wild? Does he just have a 1-year deal?
He's got one more year, I think, at 3-5.
Yeah, he does have one more year. So that is going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye on, is that, hey, he's not getting those starts in the playoffs, and instead you're starting your younger goaltender. Is this going to be a case where Marc-Andre Fleury gets dealt again, or is he just going to be more or less happy to just kind of be a 1B, and he understands that now? That'll just be something to watch.
He does have a no-move clause, right? So that'll be interesting. But, when you look at it, right, you've got to re-sign Gustafsson. Now he's going to want some money. He's an RFA. And you've got, Jesper Wallstedt coming in, the young guy they drafted in the first round 2 years ago. I think he is going to be – this is going to be great to have a couple of young guys in net for this team. But, it'll be interesting to see if they try to get Fleury out of there this summer to create a little cap space, because they're a little tied up. So
yeah, all right, we'll of course get to that as things move along. Who knows? Minnesota might win game 6 and 7, and we'll all just be eating crow. Let's go to the most unexpected series thus far, at least the result, I think. For most people, this definitely was one of those, like, 10 out of 10 are picking the Avalanche to win, and yet the Kraken have a 3-2 series lead, and Philip Grubauer looks like Igor Shesterkin.
Not quite, but yeah,
he's been pretty darn good.
Yeah, 918. That's good enough.
He's been.
That's what you want out of a guy like that.
Yep.
He seems to have their number. And
somebody with like an 890 save percentage on big games. Yeah, he's been really good.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with you. And I think, to me, that's my biggest surprise in the series, is that Seattle is getting goaltending, because, like you said, you looked at what Martin Jones and Philip Grubauer were giving them in the regular seasons, and I thought, okay, cool, they're going to get 890 save percentage out of both these guys in the playoffs, going up against a team like Colorado. They're going to be thanks but no thanks, and that's why I picked Colorado in 5 to start the series. I didn't think they were going to get goaltending, and what do you know, right? They do just the opposite, because we knew Seattle had a balanced offensive, unit up front. They were going to roll 3 lines, basically equal like 17, 18 minutes each a night, and chip in that 4th line, once, every, 6 or 7 shifts, whatever. But yeah, this goaltending for Seattle is gotten it done.
Yeah. And, especially, I was talking them up in our preview of the series, talking about how important Ty Cartier would be to the Seattle Kraken's success here in the playoffs, and he goes out and proves me right. Plays a solid 8 minutes and 41 seconds, gets one shot on net, and what do you know? It goes in. The 21-year-old from Kingston, Ontario, Ty
First
Cartier.
NHL goal. What a goal to have.
First NHL shot, first NHL game, and he scores his first NHL goal. Yeah, I saw that Ty Cartier. I wasn't watching the game at the time, and I see, I go to check the score, and I see Ty Cartier, and I was like, am I just having like a brain fart? Is this like a prospect that I should know of? And no, it's not at all. Like NHL, whatever app I was using, Hockey Reference, when I went to his page, it was like some FAQ about him. And it was like, what year was he born? Oh, Ty Cartier was born on April 30th, 2001. It didn't even have a bio. It just had some weird AI produced FAQ about the guy. I've never seen it before. And yeah, here he is scoring a huge goal that ultimately was the second of 3 goals for the Kraken, and they win game 5 3-2. But I guess that's how you got to do it. You got to have, if you're going to win in the playoffs, sometimes you have to have unexpected heroes, and Ty Cartier fits that bill very well. I guess we got to go to the Avalanche and say, like, is anything really going wrong, or is it really just, they're kind of down their big horse in Landeskog? They didn't have Makar. Like, they're just kind of hampered by injuries, and it's too much right now.
Well, I mean, first off, I'll look, when you say without Makar, right, the first thing I think of is that power play unit, right? All that offensive power they should have. They're 8.3% on the power play. They've scored 1 power play goal in this series. That's not good enough, in my opinion, if you're Colorado, right? Regardless, if you don't have Makar there for game 5 or you don't have Landeskog this series, you have enough talent on this team to get it done, right? I mean, so looking at the regular season power play, Colorado was 6th in the league at 24.5%. So they should be able to get it done, right? I mean, Seattle, gosh, what was their – I wonder what their penalty kill was in the regular season. I just want to take a peek at this. Oh, yeah, they were sitting towards the bottom at 76%. So How the frick are they doing this? I mean, really the way they're doing it is they're attacking. Seattle they've got legs, they're attacking, and Colorado just – I don't know, they just don't have the answers right now.
And they're playing so loose. They've got absolutely nothing to lose, and that's dangerous. On top of that, they do have a lot of depth. They've got more depth top to bottom than Colorado does. And, that top end is far superior to Seattle's. Even I don't think that Seattle really has a, quote, top end. They have players that are at the top of their roster, but they don't have players that are going to have any shot at leading the league in scoring kind of thing. Like, yes, Jared McCann had a nice season. He's a good player. Is he like the guy on any particular team? No, probably not. But he fits very well into the system. They've found guys who fit with what Dave Haxtell's doing, and hey, it's working right now, and they're on a dream run. They could win a series in Seattle in their first ever playoff series. That'll be played on Friday night. So, I mean, it'll be crazy if they can pull that off. Does Colorado, though, the defending Stanley Cup champions, I gotta think they've got another, the ability to pull one out of the hat and send this one back to Colorado for Game 7.
Yeah, I mean, I would think so, right? We've looked at McKinnon, who I've watched at times in the series where he looks like he's ready to pull a Connor McDavid and just take over a series, right? Or Leon Draisaitl and just take over the game, right? But 6 points through 5 games has been okay. It's been good, but not good enough to,
6 points in 5 games, just not good enough. Sorry. Yeah, not good enough when you don't have other players. Like, you have to do everything.
Yeah, they're playing him 23 minutes a game, and that's probably going to continue, right? So I think, between him and Rantanen, I think those guys are going to find a way to ramp it up, I think, just a little bit more. And I do think they'll at least get one out of this series. Whether or not they can pull, 2 more out of their hat, I don't know if they have the depth for that, because, I think Seattle, they've got the legs, and I think they can keep up with these two guys, at least skating with them. Whether or not they can completely shut them down for 2 games is another story. But, I think eventually Colorado, between these 2 games, one of the games they're going to have to lean on, guys like JT Kampf or, Nichushkin. These guys are going to have to step up a little bit more and produce to, give Colorado, that game they need to get over that hump and get past this Seattle team.
Yeah, absolutely. And, between Rantanen and McKinnon, they've got 8 goals in 5 games between those 2 guys. I mean, that's more than enough. That should be enough for the rest of your lineup. But unfortunately, they don't have that depth right now.
And 6 more goals between everybody else on the team.
Right.
So there it is.
Yep. And we'll see. Can Philip Grubauer close this one out and burn his old team? That's what we'll find out. I think we've got predictions. Where do you think that series is going?
Yeah, we both took Colorado pre-series, but I took them in 5. Obviously, that's not happening. But
yeah, I had them in 6.
I'm still going to stick with Colorado, but I'll say it'll take all 7 games, obviously. So
okay, I think for this one, this is where I'll go. I'll start it like this. If Seattle's going to win this series, I think they got to do it tonight or Friday night. I think they need to win in Seattle. I think if it goes back to Colorado, it's done. Colorado takes it in 7. So I actually think that Seattle's going to pull it off. I think they're going to win it in 6. I will go against my prediction of Colorado. So, but again, if they lose this game, then I think Colorado wins in 7. So
I love it.
That's where I'm at. We have one more series left, and that is the Oilers and the Kings. 3-2 Oilers lead, and this series has been. The Kings are probably the perfect matchup against Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl because of Kopitar and Danault, but it has not been enough to stave off what the Oilers are doing, and the Oilers lead this series 3-2 going back to LA. What was your biggest surprise of this series so far?
Oh, yeah, this one took a minute for me to come up with, but honestly, I just think, to me, the biggest surprise is got to be just how Edmonton still can't find any goaltending, right? Don't get me wrong. I think, again, Stuart Skinner's been okay, but just not good enough for me, right? And you think as well as he was playing and as well as, this team looked with Matthias Ekholm running down the stretch, they just look like a defensive juggernaut. Well, I shouldn't say defensive juggernaut, but they were keeping the goals down like a defensive juggernaut and putting up, 10 spots almost every game.
Right.
So, yeah, I figured this series was going to take a turn pretty quick. Now the question is, I think Stuart Skinner is still going to be the guy in Game 6, but if he falters a little bit, do you go to Jack Campbell at all? Because he looked good in the one game where he came in. And
that's my biggest surprise is that they didn't stick with Jack Campbell after that because of how well he played. I mean, it turned out, it worked out. Stuart Skinner played pretty well in Game 5. They won the game, 6-3 outcome. The Kings they managed to come back. They were down, they were down 3-2, and or I guess they were down 2-0, then 2-1, then 3-1, made it 3-2. But the Kings were pressing, but he held them in there. He was good enough to win, I'll say. But Campbell was really good in the one game where they were able to come back. And I was just surprised that they didn't go, well, let's go Campbell and let's see what happens here. So obviously they trust Skinner far more than they trust Campbell. But,
yeah, I can't say I blame them too much, right? Because he's the guy that got you there essentially.
Sure.
Because at one point we looked at Edmonton before they made the switch to Skinner, and they were sitting outside the playoffs, and we knew eventually Connor McDavid and Draisaitl would drag them in somehow. But Skinner showed up and gave them competent goaltending. And, on the flip side of that, right, you look at LA's goaltending, and it's been, it's been good. I can't say, Korpisalo's looked decent for, a few games. Obviously not the last game. Phoenix Copley comes in.
Yeah.
Really, they weren't even he hadn't even given up a ton of goals. I think it was after he'd only given up four or five. So, didn't look that bad. But I think they just pulled him because they, essentially just needed to shake things up and just get just basically try to shake up that lineup.
And he's been playing a lot down the stretch, so you makes sense. If you're not there, yeah, you might as well rest him. Don't risk injury. You need him for game number 6 if you've got any shot, I think, of beating the Oilers.
He has to be your best player, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we know. I think Philip Deneau and Kopitar are still going to do their best to shut down McDavid
and Adrian Kempe has been really good.
Yeah, yeah,
7
absolutely.
points and 4 goals. Like he's done exactly what he's done in the regular season, and that's just go out and score goals.
Yeah, and that's what you want a guy like that to do, right? So, maybe you get a little bit more out of, Drew Doughty and, maybe Trevor Moore. I wouldn't mind seeing a bit more out of him or Byfield. But, ultimately, I think, this Kings forward group is played good enough. They just need, I think, to, find a way to shut down Draisaitl and McDavid these last 2 games, not necessarily keep them off the score sheet completely, but minimize the damage. And
that's the trick, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
That's always the trick with the Oilers. Yeah. Where do you think this series is going? You picked the Oilers to win, as did I. I picked the Oilers in 7, so I feel like I should probably just stick with that. Plus, it would be fun to see the series go to 7 games. It's been a great series. It maybe has been the most entertaining series thus far.
Yeah. To be honest, I picked the Oilers in 6, and I think I'll probably just stick with that.
Stick with it. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. You know what? I think, Connor McDavid and Draisaitl have found another level here these last couple games. And, if they can get decent goaltending out of Stuart Skinner, I just don't think, Los Angeles has got enough firepower to keep up if it turns out to be another 5-4 type of game. I just think Edmonton will have the better of them if they have to go to a shootout.
All right, perfect. Yeah, and like I said, I'll stick with my Oilers in 7. It'll be fun if the Kings can pull off this game 5 and everyone can sweat for a little bit. But it's been a great series, and no doubt the Kings are. I think last year when the Kings were playing the Oilers, it was more or less like, wow, cool, the Kings got in. And they're like, hey, look at they're competing against the Oilers. This is pretty cute. And the Oilers still ended up winning in 7 games. They gave them the sweat. This series has been more like, oh, shoot, we have to go against the Kings.
Right.
The Kings are good. And probably if they had pulled someone like Winnipeg or, if they had pulled a lesser team, they'd likely be winning the series. Like they're probably better than at least half the teams that made the playoffs in the Western Conference. So this is no slouch, and the Kings are clearly on the rise. They're an interesting team because of their, they also have some very good veterans as well. So obviously they're not necessarily getting better by the day. They're going to continually to slow down, but the Kings are in a pretty good spot. I could see next year the Kings being the team that, they make one more change and they're able to kind of take that next step. And who knows, they could still win this series. They're still in it. But I think the Oilers ultimately, I think everyone just wants to see the Oilers and see McDavid go on a long run because they're just so fun to watch. And it's good for the game to have your best player going, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was funny. There's a website called Money Puck where they're updating, for the listeners who don't know what that is, they're basically advanced statistics, and they're updating the odds almost daily on Twitter as far as Stanley Cup winning odds, right? And they still have Edmonton at the top. Being as close of a series as it has been, it is a little surprising to me that Edmonton is still number 1 on that list. I figured, maybe a team like Boston would have been up there, but surprisingly too, though, number 2 is the Toronto Maple Leafs. So you'll be happy to know that.
Oh, good. Well, that's just because they know Leafs fans will bet on their team, I guess. I don't know who is going, I'm going to bet on the Leafs. No, no, thanks.
Well, when you got to go through Boston next, potentially, right? I mean, gosh,
yeah,
that's more scary than Tampa, I think, but we'll see.
I am mildly giddy for the potential of an Oilers Golden Knights series because that is going to be unbelievable. Mark Stone, Connor McDavid, I mean, come on, Jack Eichel. Oh, it's going to be good. That's at least according to my predictions. That's what we'll be seeing. That's obviously not in stone right now, but that's what I think will end up happening. So. Justin, any final thoughts before we call it today and I go and nervously crunch on my nails for the next 3 hours as the Leafs try and win Game 5?
Yeah, first off, I'll just say it would be great to see Eichel and McDavid play each other in the next round just because they went 1 and 2 in the draft in 2015, so that would be a fun storyline. But more importantly, I'm going home to watch the NFL draft tonight.
Yeah.
So for those who don't follow football, it is tonight. My Lions have
number 6.
Let's go. They have the 6th overall pick, and with Aaron Rodgers out of the NFC North now, I think the Lions actually have a shot at winning the division this year. So that will be a lot of fun to watch. For when I'm not watching hockey, of course.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Yeah. Well, the draft is an easy one to have like on the side or just like follow as it's going on Twitter and stuff. So
exactly.
Yep.
I will have the iPad with the draft on, watching that and watching hockey on the TV. So it'll be great.
I'll check it during the intermission.
There you go.
I can't do 2 things at once and have kids. My
kids you've got the kid thing.
Yep. All right. Well, that's our show. You can find us on Twitter at OT Hockey Talk. Let us know what you think of our playoff predictions. You can give us yours and tell us how wrong we are. And if you're listening to this and you already know the outcome of some of the games, just have some grace on us because we don't know the future. Justin, have a good rest of your night. To our listeners, enjoy your day, and we'll talk to you soon.